In the summer of 1518, a woman stepped into the streets of Strasbourg and began to dance. At first, it may have looked strange, maybe even harmless, but she did not stop. Hour after hour, she kept moving. Her body twisted through the street as people watched in confusion. Then fear. Then something even stranger happened. Others began to join her. Not one or two, dozens, then possibly hundreds. They danced in the streets for days, unable or unwilling to stop, while the city tried to understand what was happening. Some accounts claim people collapsed from exhaustion. Others suggest the outbreak became so severe that authorities had to intervene. But their solution was almost impossible to believe. They encouraged more dancing. This is the story of the dancing plague of 1518, and more than 500 years later, it remains one of the strangest episodes in European history. The event took place in Strasbourg, a city that was then part of the Holy Roman Empire. Life there was already difficult. The early 16th century was marked by hunger, disease, religious anxiety, and social pressure. In that world, belief shaped reality. Saints, curses, divine punishment, and spiritual affliction were not abstract ideas. For many, they were part of everyday life. So when a woman, often named in later accounts as Frau Trophäa, began dancing in the street, people did not simply see unusual behavior. They saw a sign, a warning, something that needed explanation. According to later records, she danced for days. Eventually, others joined her. The number of dancers grew, and the situation became impossible for the city to ignore. There was no obvious enemy, no visible wound, no clear disease, just people dancing until their bodies could barely continue. Doctors at the time reportedly believed the dancers were suffering from overheated blood, and if the problem was too much heat inside the body, then perhaps the cure was to let them dance it out. So instead of stopping the dancers, the city allegedly cleared space for them. Musicians were brought in. A stage may have been set up. The idea was simple. If the dancers kept moving, eventually the illness would burn itself away. But if the reports are accurate, it only made the scene more disturbing. Imagine walking through Strasbourg and seeing people gathered in the street, not celebrating, not performing, but moving as if trapped inside their own bodies. Music playing, crowds watching, dancers exhausted, frightened, and unable to stop. Whether people truly danced to death is still debated. Some later accounts may have exaggerated the number of deaths, but the outbreak itself was real enough to enter historical record. So what actually happened? One explanation is ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that can grow on rye and other grains. It can cause hallucinations, convulsions, and strange physical symptoms. But there is a problem. Ergot poisoning usually causes pain, spasms, and sickness. It does not neatly explain organized dancing over days, or why people appeared to join the behavior socially. Another explanation is mass psychogenic illness, sometimes called mass hysteria. This happens when extreme stress, fear, and belief spread symptoms through a group of people, even when there is no single physical cause. In Strasbourg, the conditions were perfect: hunger, disease, religious fear, desperation, a population already under pressure, and perhaps one person's strange behavior became a spark in a city ready to break. The more people watched, the more the fear spread. The more the fear spread, the more people joined. And once the authorities treated it like a real affliction, the belief may have become even stronger. That is what makes the dancing plague so unsettling. It may not have been madness in the simple sense. It may have been a society expressing pain in the only language it had left. Movement, panic, belief, exhaustion. Eventually, the outbreak ended. Some accounts say the dancers were taken to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, who was associated with dancing afflictions. And then, slowly, the dancing stopped. But the story remained. Maybe the people of Strasbourg were not possessed. Maybe they were not cursed. Maybe they were living through hunger, disease, and terror until their minds and bodies found a way to release something they could no longer carry. In 1518, they danced in the streets, not for joy, not for celebration, but because something inside that city had reached its limit. And for a time, Nobody knew how to make it stop. This was Orynvale, where the record fades,